Hello, Jacob Reed here with Sacred Phrenia. I'm a mental health metamorphosis coach. I help so-called schizophrenics and other mental health misfits ground without shutting off their gifts. And I'm kind of jumping on here randomly. I'm jumping on this Facebook Live because it's good for me to get out of my comfort zone. I'm going to be talking today about cellular peace and why it's a prerequisite for psychological peace. Keep in mind that nothing I say should be construed as medical advice. I'm not a medical doctor. I always encourage people to make their own medical decisions, do their own research, consult the right professionals, and know that essentially know that by suggesting that schizophrenia is a spiritual development process, I am by no means suggesting that anyone should discontinue their medication. That's certainly not what I'm saying. I'm basically going to be sharing my thoughts about this topic of cellular peace today. If any of you have any questions, please drop them below. Again, I kind of jumped on here randomly. I wanted to see if I could just get on a live and start talking and develop that voice, that public speaking quality that I'm trying to develop. So thank you for being here. What do I mean when I say that cellular peace is a prerequisite for psychological peace? I'm basically saying that healing the body must be one of the first steps that we take toward healing the mind, especially for those of us who have suffered from these psychotic and psychiatric, disorders, these extreme states of consciousness, these health opportunities, whatever you want to call them. At the end of the day, the suffering is the same. Although I do prefer to use uplifting language as I describe these experiences. We're hearing these fascinating reports about people who have been able to recover spontaneously from these life-threatening illnesses, terminal cancer, for instance. There are these cases where people go to a meditation retreat or an ayahuasca ceremony, or maybe they have a near-death experience or some other type of life-altering event from which they return an entirely changed, entirely healed human being, free of their former symptoms. And this is done through the power of thought in many cases. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Bruce Lipton and other people who are showing us the power of the mind and the fact that the mind may be our most powerful medicine if we are able to employ the power of positive thinking. But today I'm really trying to shine some light on the fact that not all people are able to employ the power of positive thinking. I wish that we all could. I wish that I had been able to, in my early days, simply think my way out of my predicament. As many of you may already know, I was diagnosed with what we call paranoid schizophrenia in 2011, roughly a year after suffering a horrific mental breakdown, after becoming involved with an online cult that did a number on my belief system, basically completely upended my entire belief system, my entire world, completely disarranged my psychological structures to the point where I was no longer tethered to this third dimensional reality. I was living in a state of 24/7 adrenaline-laden panic. And I did decide to pursue a natural course of healing, which has resulted in me in my present state being able to press that live button and just start talking. It's such a gift. But today I'm trying to basically help people who who are lost, who are unable to employ this power of positive thinking, because there are many people who have lost control of their mind. And oftentimes this is through no fault of their own. This is simply the situation that they're in. And I have compassion for those people, as I myself was one of them. I'm encouraging them to understand that healing the body must be one of the first steps that we take toward healing the mind, as I think I already mentioned. And this word cellular peace has come up for me recently because I'm revisiting old material that really helped me. I opened up a book the other day that's called A Personal Peace. I actually have it right here. It's called A Personal Peace, Macrobiotic Reflections on Mental and Emotional Recovery, written by David Briscoe. And it's a really fascinating story about a young man who was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, similarly, was lost in the sauce for over a decade, was on all types of heavy-duty antipsychotic medications, and went through the hospital system, was completely written off by his community and his family. They had no hope for him. But he discovered this Japanese system of healing known as macrobiotics, and he began applying himself to it religiously. And it is fascinating to see what happens. He essentially loses a massive amount of weight. His mind begins clearing up, and he becomes this different person. Over time, he's able to wean himself off of his medication. And this is one of the first stories that I found. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in, by the way. Thank you so much, June. And by the way, if you have any questions, leave them below in the comment section. I'll try to get to them. But I'm just telling the story of this guy named David Briscoe who healed himself through diet, essentially. I mean, it's, this thing called macrobiotics, if you're not aware of it, it's this Japanese system of healing, and they look at the world through the lens of the yin-yang spectrum. So they see that the world is a balance of those opposing energies. So the universe is either contracting or expanding in different ways, and we are all constantly expanding or contracting. We're all either yin or yang in different periods in our lives. And so these macrobiotic people try to achieve a center point between the yin and the yang spectrum, and they can do that through diet. So many of them eat mostly whole grains and vegetables. And so this is something that I myself began doing in 2014. I myself began doing macrobiotics, and similarly to David Briscoe, my mind began clearing up. I began detoxifying on a deep level. There's this fellow who took me under his wing. He was kind of this macrobiotic instructor, a really interesting guy. And, I will never forget that period, because it's the first time that I had real hope that it was possible to recover. It would take me three more years or so, 2 or 3 more years before I would really find the floor beneath my feet. But, I'm telling you this story because this was a case of a person who had been told, that much of his mental illness was his own fault, essentially, that he should essentially think his way out of his early years of what we call mental illness, before it became really developed. And so many of us are told this same thing. We're told, snap out of it, or just think more positive thoughts. And I mean, telling a person to think their way out of such a situation is like telling people to, like it's like trying to read this is the analogy I use, is it's like trying to read a dense book of philosophy at like a heavy metal concert. You would never try to meditate on top of a broken body. When people's guts have broken down, when their intestinal health is completely shot, there's no way that they can simply meditate or just snap out of their situation. And so, I want people to know that we have to achieve cellular peace before psychological peace. And this term, cellular peace, is actually a term that this guy, David Briscoe, uses in this book. It's really cool. He actually, he talks about this concept of cellular peace, and it has two principles. I want to share these two principles with you right now. The two principles of cellular peace are, one, that everything that you consume must also be eliminated. Think about that for a second. That's really interesting. We don't always stop to think that everything we take in, whether that's nutritionally or psychologically or socially, everything that we consume must also be eliminated. So that doesn't just mean that we're going to expel whatever we eat through our digestive tract. It also means that whatever we take in, like whatever we read, we're going to have to think about. Thought is a type of elimination. Speech and movement, these are all types of elimination. And so the second concept is that the quality of the energy eliminated will be determined by the quality of the energy consumed. So this really correlates with my understanding of detoxification. This is why I'm so careful what I allow into my life, and I encourage all of you to adopt a similar carefulness about who you include in your life, what you eat. You know, this is something that I admire about macrobiotic people. They have almost a religious orientation to what they put in their mouths. You know, they will, like the macrobiotic guy who I knew, he said he would rather, you know, take a bullet than like eat a piece of candy. I mean, that might sound a little bit extreme, but in a way, the system that we find ourselves in, the system that we call modern civilization, is so broken, it's almost necessary for us to take some of those radical positions. You know, eating a piece of candy is almost like a political statement. I myself disagree with the system the way it's currently being operated, and so I might choose to not eat a piece of candy for the rest of my life, you know, as kind of like an FU to the current food manufacturing process. So, you know, I encourage people to explore this concept of, it's called, I call it progressive extremism. This is where you decide to cut certain things out of your life entirely. You will never eat them again. You know, I will never drink soda again. There are certain things, and over time, you slowly increase the number of things that you completely eliminate from your life. But you know, I'm just hopping on here to share with you some of these ideas. It is possible to achieve psychological peace, even for those of us who have undergone these. Thanks so much, everyone, for leaving your feedback, by the way. You know, those of us with these more severe psychiatric, you know, quote unquote disorders, it is possible for us to achieve psychological peace, but we must first achieve cellular peace. Unless we are like these Christ-like figures. I mean, there may be some people who can just arrive on this planet and receive a diagnosis of schizophrenia or bipolar or whatever, and just clear their minds, you know, intellectually or through meditation or whatever. And that's amazing, you know, all the more power to those people. I myself was not able to do that. I had to pursue a course of natural healing. And that's really a lot of what my coaching program is all about. Anybody who is not aware, I do have a 4-month coaching program, and it is for anybody who's trying to achieve these higher levels of psychological peace. It's not necessarily just for people with what we call schizophrenia. I call it sacredphrenia. It's really for anyone who, you know, understands that they can heal their bodies, and you know they want to basically adopt like a pretty strict regimen, you know, involving changing their diet and taking a bunch of different supplements that help them clear out the garbage, put in the right nutrients, release some trauma, you know, and replace our limiting beliefs with uplifting foundational truths. This is what can heal anybody. I don't care where you're at in your life. I don't care how lost you are. Anybody can heal. And so, yeah, this is a quick little video. I'm going to try to do about one of these a week. It's so, you know, freaking scary to press that live button, but it's so good for you. It is so good for you. It's like, it helps you develop your voice. So, yeah, I encourage anybody to do the same thing. Get out of your comfort zone. So, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm gonna end it right here. I think this was a good little live. I don't even know. I think it's just been like 10 or 15 minutes, but really thank you for watching, and yeah, bless you. Oh, thanks, you guys. Thanks, Orion. It's really cool the number of people who started, kind of following me the last couple of weeks. It's been a really profound 2 weeks, and I love you all so much. Thanks for hopping on. I'll catch you next time, and next time I'll actually kind of like give you an idea of when I'm gonna hop on. This was kind of random, just felt like doing it. So blessings, and I'll catch you later. Peace.